In human history, when people reached the pinnacle of power and fame, they often began to seek immortality. So far, no figure in history has achieved that. Everyone on earth has to go through birth, old age, sickness, death, and no one can avoid it. However, the Bible mentions some characters who have never experienced death. Speaking of this, perhaps we immediately think of the image of Jesus, the central belief of Christianity. However, the Bible also says the names of the other three characters who never experienced death. So who are they? What is special about them not having to go through death? We will learn about these three characters in today's video. The first is Enoch, the first man in the Bible who is said to have never experienced physical death. He was a descendant of Adam, the third son of Adam and Eve, and the great-grandfather of Noah. Enoch is a descendant of many other notable biblical figures. God has set a limit of 120 years for human lifespan, as mentioned in Genesis chapter 6:3. However, Enoch overcame that limit, becoming a father at the age of 65 and living to be 365 years old. During the chaotic period before the flood, man was no longer loyal to God, followed the path of sin, and suffered death. However, Enoch stood out by walking faithfully to God and developing a deep relationship with Him. Genesis chapter 5 verses 22 and 24 says that Enoch walked with God and no longer because God took him away. This passage shows Enoch's special attachment to God, and the miracle is that he was taken to heaven without having to undergo physical death. The Jews also recorded Enoch in the list of ancestors of ancient Israel, who were famous for their great faith. Hebrews chapter 11, verses 5 and 6 read, "For before his arrest he was praised as pleasing to God, and without faith he could not please him. Whoever comes to God must believe that he exists, and he rewards those who earnestly seek him." The phrase "God took him away" in the Bible not only has a symbolic meaning, but it also determines that Enoch did not experience death in the usual way. He was taken out of this world so that he would not have to suffer death. He could not be found because God had taken him away. Before this happened, he was praised as pleasing to God. Enoch was also blessed with the prophetic gift of prophesying the coming of Jesus. This case is described in Jude chapter 1 verses 14 and 15, which reads, "The Lord will come with thousands of his saints to judge all the people and condemn all the ungodly acts they have committed, as well as every challenge of the godless sinners who have resisted him." Enoch's legacy not only rests with himself, but also affects his descendants, especially Noah. Thanks to his righteousness, Noah and his family were the only ones saved during the catastrophic flood. Enoch's life was a powerful demonstration of faith, obedience, and uprightness that pleased God so much that he chose to take him out of this world in a special way. The second character is Elijah, the famous prophet in the Bible who did not experience death. Elijah was a prophet during the reigns of King Ahab and Queen Jezebel in the kingdom of Israel. Elijah was famous for his courage in speaking out against false gods and forms of idolatry that the Israelites recognized. He also performed many miracles, such as summoning fire from heaven to prove that God is a true spirit. The nations of Israel strayed from the faith of their ancestors, abandoning God in favor of pagan idols. This diversion was motivated by the evil woman Jezebel, the wife of King Ahab, who was particularly zealous with the worship of idols and had influenced her husband to build a temple for pagan gods. This action caused many Israelites to stray from the worship of the true God. Seeing the deterioration of the spirit of his people, the prophet Elijah bravely stood up against King Ahab's irreverence, calling him to repent and return to the God of Israel. However, the king remained stubborn and did not want to listen to Elijah's advice. In response, the prophet Elijah prophesied that there would be a severe drought as a punishment, and that no rain or fog would fall to the ground until he prayed for it to end. For 3.5 years, the heavens remained closed, causing drought and famine to spread across the land. The story of Elijah not dying and being taken straight to heaven is even clearer and more dramatic than Enoch's. Elijah's assistant was informed of his passing. In the Book of Kings 2, chapter 2, verse 3, it is written, "The son of the prophets came to Elisha and said to him, 'Do you know that the Lord will take away your teacher today?' Elijah set out from Gilgal with Elisha, and they arrived on the banks of the Jordan River, followed by 50 young prophets from Jericho, who watched from afar. Elijah took his robe, folded it up like a stick, and slammed it into the water, causing it to turn out, and the prophets crossed the river on dry land. Elijah asked Elisha what he wanted before God took him away. Elisha expressed a desire to have double her teacher's divine powers. Then a chariot pulled by fiery horses appeared, separating them, and Elijah was carried into heaven in a whirlwind, as described in Book 2 of the Kings, verse 11. The third character is Melchizedek, a mysterious biblical figure who has attracted much interest in his identity. This is considered one of the greatest mysteries in the Bible. In Hebrews chapter 6, verse 19, it is written that Jesus, after completing his office as high priest, held a position equivalent to Melchizedek. It is worth noting that in both the Old and New Testaments, Melchizedek served as a priest of the supreme God, as described in Genesis 14. During that time, there was a war between the ancient city-states of Canaan and Mesopotamia. Abraham's nephew Lot and his family were taken prisoner. When one of Lot's men escaped and reported to Abraham, he took action, arming his 318 servants and pursuing the invaders, succeeding in rescuing Lot and his family. After returning from this daring mission, a mysterious figure, Melchizedek, appeared and served Abraham. Genesis chapter 14, verses 18 to 20, reads, King Melchizedek of Salem brought bread and wine. He was a priest of the Most High God. Melchizedek blessed Abraham and said, Blessed is Abraham by the Most High God, who has delivered your enemies into your hands. Abraham gave Melchizedek a tenth of the spoils. The king of Salem, Jerusalem, whose name derives from the Hebrew word for peace, made Melchizedek the king of peace. In Hebrews chapter 7, verse 3, it says, Melchizedek had no parents, no genealogy, neither was born nor died, but his life was like that of the Son of God. This is proof from the Bible that Melchizedek never died. However, the mystery of Melchizedek is still not fully solved. In Hebrews chapter 7, verses 20 and 21, God swore that he would always be a priest. The text reads, The Lord has sworn and will never change his will, you are a priest forever. Jesus himself said in Matthew chapter 19, verse 17, No one is good except God. The most important thing is that we have a high priest, Jesus, who paid the price for our sins, and who defends us before God, and who loves us with eternal love. In human history, tens of thousands of ancient books have been found, which provide extremely important documents for us to better understand the past. These books help us recover a part of the history of the earth that has been forgotten. In particular, the Enoch book is one such book. The Enoch manuscript begins with a warning to all of humanity and the fallen angels who have turned the earth into a place of debauchery, bloodshed, magic. The book with the first text dates to about 300 BC, and the last records are around 100 BC. The Book of Enoch was removed from the Jewish and Christian scriptures in the first centuries of the new history. It reveals secrets that society has been hiding. So what are those secrets? We'll explore that in today's video. According to ancient writings, Enoch is the protector of all the heavenly treasures, the head of the archangels, and the direct minister of God. He also spoke of fallen angels and their sins on earth. They began mating with earthly women and revealed to mankind the secrets of heaven. The book was banned most likely because it contained prophecies about Jesus himself. Who is Enoch? Enoch was the son of Jared, a descendant of seventh generation Adam, and the great-grandfather of Noah. He was a teacher and spiritual leader, his name translated as initiator. The Old Testament doesn't say much about his writings, but does give him a place in Genesis chapter 5, verses 21 to 24, which confirm his existence and briefly describe his life as Enoch walked with the Lord and disappeared because the Lord took him away. This phrase has caused countless interpretations. In addition, there is a legend that Enoch was also a king and priest. In the Bible, one of the traditional interpretations of the existence of the Book of Enoch is that it provides answers where the Bible is silent or mysterious. Enoch is also believed to be the creator of writing and astrology, as well as communication with God and a religious teacher of the people, a prophet and sage. Many church fathers wrote about him and expressed deep respect for Enoch. They allude to the Enoch several times and in some cases explicitly support the biblical use of the book. Going back to Genesis, he is described as the seventh of the 10 pre-flood patriarchs, each of whom is believed to have lived several centuries. Genesis chapter 5 presents the genealogy of these 10 individuals from Adam to Noah, indicating the age of each of them when they became fathers and their age when they died. However, Enoch is an exception. He is said to have never experienced death. In Hebrews chapter 11, verse 5 and Genesis chapter 5, verses 22 to 24, it is stated that Enoch lived for 365 years, far fewer than other pre-flood ancestors, who often died at the age of more than 700. The short account of Enoch in Genesis chapter 5 ends with the cryptic verse that he is no longer because the Lord took him away. This shows Enoch's great devotion to God and the great love and special treatment that God had for Enoch. Let's take a look at the 5 parts of the Enoch book to better understand its contents. The Book of the Keepers marks the beginning of the manuscript, written around 300 BC, describing the fall of the Keepers and their becoming the fathers of Nephilim. Genesis chapter 6, verses 1 to 4. In this section also recounts Enoch's travels in heaven. The book opens with an introduction saying that Enoch was a righteous man, whose eyes were opened by God to see visions from the Holy One, and from which he heard all things and knew what he saw. But those things will not happen to this generation, but will happen to future generations. The book also describes God coming to earth on Mount Sinai with his army to condemn mankind, how everything was predestined by God and happened according to his timing. Sinners will perish, and great and good people will continue to live in light, joy, and peace. The first part of the book describes the interaction between fallen angels and humans. Semi, their leader, fears that the angels will disagree with his plan, but they all vow to carry out the act together. 200 angels descended on Mount Hermon and created the Nephilim giants. The book also discusses the process of training humans to become corrupted by fallen angels, with Azazel teaching humans to make weapons, jewelry, and beauty, leading to rampant wickedness. Amezrak teaches astrology and magic, while other angels teach about constellations and signs of the earth. The angels then ask God to judge the inhabitants of the earth and the fallen angels. God sent Uriel to Noah, announcing the coming flood and instructing him on how to be saved, preserving his seed for generations to come. Specifically, in the Hebrew Bible and the Enoch books, the use of this information may have played an important role in the understanding and application of the title of early Christianity. The astronomy book consists of 4 discrete versions found at Qumran, containing material not found in later editions of the Enoch book. This book describes in detail the movement of the celestial bodies, as well as the knowledge of the universe, and the later solar calendar is also described in the Book of Jubilee, used by the Dead Sea cult. A year in this calendar consists of 364 days, divided into 4 equal seasons. Each season has 91 days. Each season is divided into 3 equal months, each with 30 days plus an additional day at the end of the 3rd month. Thus, the whole year has only 52 weeks, and each season always begins on Wednesday, which is the 4th day of creation according to Genesis, the day when the lights in the sky, the seasons, the days, and the year are created. The book Dreams contains images of Israel's history, from the Babylonian revolt between 163 and 142 BC, according to the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. The book is said to have been written before the Great Flood in the Bible. This is followed by visions and parables of Israel's history, in which animals represent humans and humans represent angels. The message of the Enoch scholars here is divided into 5 small parts. The Apocalypse of the Weeks tells the story of the world in 10 stages called weeks, of which 7 involve the past and 3 involve the future. The culmination will be the 10th week when the new heavens appear, and there will be countless uncountable weeks until the time when all live in goodness and righteousness. The next part is the advice that Enoch imparts to his son, Methuselah, with a warning to follow righteousness. This epistle describes God's wisdom, the ultimate reward for the righteous, and the punishment for the wicked. The sequel is 6 prophecies against sinners and the testimony of every creature against them, along with the assurance of an afterlife. This is followed by the section about the birth of Noah, which is found in the passages of Qumran and is considered an appendix, which tells of the flood and the birth of Noah in the form of an angel. Finally, there is the conclusion, which is not found in Qumran, but is considered the work of later editors. It emphasizes creating light to resist sinners imprisoned in the dark. But why was this ancient book officially removed and banned from circulation by religions? Because it contains so many truths about our origins. Have you ever wondered why schools taught so little about the world's first advanced civilization, especially when it introduced many of the achievements that we still use today? Why are there so many mysteries surrounding the Sumerian civilization in present-day Mesopotamia, Iraq? They left us with many inventions, from modern calendars based on lunar cycles, counting systems for geometry, to wheels, plows, irrigation systems, and sailboats. And they even invented the first known language and left the first written evidence. But why is the history of this civilization forgotten? They have created many advanced systems, but they are considered mythical. In 1849, a British archaeologist discovered 14 stone tablets at Sumer, and they are the oldest known documents, dating to the 24th century BC. These findings opened up a whole new perspective compared to other ancient sacred texts, as they recorded the origin of all beginnings, or some kind of supreme god. These tablets even record stories of creation, the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve, but claim that these entities are polytheistic gods, or possibly alien beings. The first two panels clearly explain who they are and where they came from, while the third panel tells of the 6 days of formation or settlement on Earth. They explain that humans have been genetically interfered with by these organisms, rather than naturally occurring. Even the technology that the Sumerians provided was derived from these entities. We will continue to explore what the Sumerians say about our history. Here are the legends selected from the 14 stone tablets and the similarities with other ancient sources. According to Sumerian documents, 445,000 years ago, the gods of creation, called Anunnaki, came to Earth. The name means those who descend from heaven to Earth. They live on a long orbiting planet called Nibiru, which only approaches the solar system every 3,600 years. Nibiru is many times the diameter of the Earth and contains a lot of iron oxide, which gives its rivers and lakes a red color. According to the signs, Nibiru's atmosphere began to deteriorate, becoming a hostile place for life. To restore it, the Anunnaki needed an important element for their atmosphere, which was gold. It helps protect against radiation, and this explains why NASA uses gold leaf in their space stations. While NASA currently recognizes only 8 official planets in the solar system, there has been much speculation about the oscillating orbits of the other 2 planets, resulting in the impact of gravity from a very large mass, which has yet to be discovered. In fact, the discovery of this mass has been around for decades, but in October 2017, NASA published an article titled "Super Earth Has Arrived at the Dinner House." Currently, there are 5 different observational evidences pointing to the existence of a 9th planet, which suggests the possibility of another planet that has not yet been discovered in our solar system. When the Anunnaki arrived, they were likely to live for hundreds of thousands of years. They created a mining settlement they called Eridu, the first Earth station, located in the Persian Gulf, under the leadership of a commander. These travelers are not alone. They carry with them another alien race known as the Ajiji. The Ajiji people were considered slaves to the Anunnaki and were tasked with gold mining. As civilization developed, the Ajiji people endured extremely harsh labor. When fatigue and suffering exceed their limits, they begin to rebel, mistakenly believing that they can defeat their oppressive masters. However, the revolt failed, and they were completely destroyed, leaving the Anunnaki without a workforce. Therefore, Anu, the ruler of the planet Nibiru, orders his son Enki to create a new race of slaves, smart enough to perform complex tasks but still depend on Anunnaki. Enki's experiments are detailed in the Ata Hasid book, which shows that many unique creatures have been created. Earth's prehistoric man was Homo erectus, and this hybrid creature we call Homo sapiens. Anunnaki placed Homo sapiens working in mines and other areas of Mesopotamia. Initially, humans had no choice but to worship their gods. According to images and texts, the Anunnaki people, known to be long-lived creatures, were gigantic compared to Homo sapiens. In return, Homo sapiens are taught social, academic, and technological skills. Some Anunnaki chieftains bred with humans, and the descendants of this union are known as Nephilim, or giants. Scholars believe that this infuriated the current leader, Anunnaki, who was also Enki's brother. Enlil wants to make sure that humanity can never gain control and rule over Nibiru. Interbreeding increased this risk, but it was out of his control. The human population grew over millennia, only to finally encounter the population control plan that nature had reserved. In a 3,600-year cycle, Nibiru's orbit wreaked havoc on both the sun and earth. According to King's Gospel, Nibiru is also known as the Terminator. King's Gospel is an ancient document found in Scotland and has been removed from biblical texts like the Dead Sea Scrolls. It writes that man has forgotten the days of the Terminator. Only the wise know where he is gone and when he will return. The Terminator is brightly colored and ferocious, and its appearance is ever-changing and unstable. Although it is known that Nibiru often passes without causing harm, the stone tablets depict a cataclysmic event that occurred when Nibiru approached Earth. First, dark spots appeared on the surface of the sun. The Earth's magnetic field weakened, the temperature increased, and the ice caps began to melt. This event, we call it the Great Flood. It also wrote that for days before the flood, the earth shook and groaned as if in pain. On the nights before the disaster, Nibiru appeared in the sky as a bright star. According to the records, Enlil saw the coming disaster as an opportunity to eliminate humanity that he considered unworthy. He returned to Nibiru, but many Anunnaki chose to stay and witness the cataclysm from their ships, flying around the earth. The text says that then it gets dark, the moon seems to be swallowed up by a monster, and the earth shakes. In the bright dawn, a huge black cloud emerged from the horizon. Early morning turned to darkness and thunder resounded, with lightning tearing the sky. On that day, the Great Flood began. The giant iceberg from Antarctica collided and fell into the ocean, creating a tsunami everywhere, which continued to move north, engulfing the gold mines of Southeast Africa and the city of Eden, one of the first Anunnaki settlements on Earth. Enki, sympathetic to the creatures he created, instructed a select few to build ships. Among them were No, also known as Noah, and his family. A huge storm with heavy rain began. The tsunami continued to sweep through the earth for 7 days, but the rains lasted for 40 days and 40 nights. The story of the Great Flood is recorded in almost every civilization on our planet. Core ice samples from Greenland and Antarctica show that, at the height of the last ice age, sea levels were 425 meters lower than they are today. More importantly, there is evidence of a rapid rise in sea levels after the flood. After the disaster, the construction of a new spaceport began. When the Anunnaki finally left Earth, their influence spread throughout the world, from Mesopotamia to India to South America. Before leaving, they gave humanity the Sumerian civilization, an inexplicable advanced civilization in its time. Sumer appeared suddenly, with a highly mature and organized culture. The Anunnaki taught the Sumerians their way of life and established kingdoms. This is where the story gets interesting. Kings are chosen to act as their messengers on Earth and rule humanity, according to ancient principles. Humanity does not realize that the royal bloodline has been genetically manipulated by the Anunnaki. This explains why the nobility had a strong aversion to interbreeding. Some argue that the Anunnaki have been quietly controlling the Earth through selective breeding among the nobility over the centuries. Others speculate that Nibiru will come close to Earth again, and then the Anunnaki will return, restoring their rule over humanity. This explains the mystery surrounding the history of the Sumerians. Either way, the 3,600-year cycle is coming to an end. And now you know what the ancients revealed. And if you've really watched this far, with God's blessing, share it with your loved ones so they can know about this as well. Don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell to give us more motivation to create more videos about the Bible. We hope to see you again in the next video. May God bless you and protect you at all times. Amen.